Hello there, my name is Zach Peterson and thank you for joining me on this video course on how to work within SMU's content management system, Sitecore. Sitecore is where the vast majority of our web pages are hosted here at SMU, and since many of us that use Sitecore are not dedicated or experienced web developers, this course is going to focus on editing content within pages that already exist within the SMU website. This includes learning about the basic structure of Sitecore and individual pages, the layout of all of your tools, how to make edits, working with links, both internal and external. We'll get into the details between those two, as well as working with images, as well as creating button links that will make certain links stand out for your viewers, and also actually, once you're done, how to publish the page to the World Wide Web so folks can actually see it. And so before I begin too much of our how-to here today, I just wanted to bring up permissions. So if you do need permissions to any websites within Sitecore, you can contact the IT help desk. Usually it's always best if there's a point person for managing your web pages for your department or area. Have them submit a request to have permissions granted to you, and they can get that set up for you at the help desk fairly quickly. So just keep that in mind. And also, if you try to log into Sitecore when you're following this particular procedure we're going to do here in a bit, and you can't log into Sitecore, that's a good indication that means you need permission. So just contact the IT help desk for more details on that. So here I have the address that you will use to access Sitecore. That is smu.edu/Sitecore. It works well on pretty much any web browser you're going to be using right now, a modern web browser. And there is a longer URL there that I have at the bottom of this slide, which is wcmstage.smu.edu/Sitecore/login. I know that's a bit of a mouthful, but you can bookmark that as well, and it will take you directly to the Sitecore login page. But I always mention smu.edu/Sitecore because not only can you log in there as well, there's a little bit more information that you can use to refer to later on down the road when you're working in web pages. So let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, so here we are at smu.edu/Sitecore. Of course, you could always just click the login button and log in immediately, but I do want to show you before I do that this additional information here on the documentation and training tab. We do have links to Sitecore guides from Sitecore themselves, and also additional information from our web administrators and other folks. So just make sure that you do have that at your disposal. Just remember that. And also some video tutorials, things like that. So always refer to this page for additional information on Sitecore, and of course the help desk is happy to help as well. But right now I'm going to go ahead and log in, so I'm going to click that login button. And now I am brought to the Sitecore login page. So I'm going to go ahead and use my regular SMU ID and password to log in. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and click login. And if you do receive any kind of error or anything like that when you try to log in, it's probably due to permissions. So again, if you need permissions, just contact the help desk or your point person in your area or department for your website, and they should be able to get the process started for you as well to make sure you're able to access it. So now, once you are logged in, you will get to the launch pad, which is basically the home page for Sitecore. So right now, you probably will not see as many buttons as on your screen rather that are showing up here on mine, and that's okay. The two buttons that we're going to be working with the most today are going to be the content editor, which is the button that has the pencil icon, and then media library, which is the button with the photo icon. The content editor is where we're going to be spending most of our time, because that is where you actually place content onto pages as well as edit existing content. The media library is where you upload content that you want to place into your page, like an image, a PDF, different types of multimedia, things like that that you want to link to on your page. And we'll get into more details on how to upload and things like that here in a bit. So let me go ahead and I will click on Content Editor here. Okay, so here we are within the Content Editor, and this is where we're going to be spending the vast majority of our time today. And first off, let me just give you a real quick tour on the features that you're going to be using the most. Up here at the very top of the screen, we do have the navigation bar, which is very similar to what you're familiar with in Microsoft Office, where you have these tabs here at the top, and then when you click on a tab, it provides additional options in the bar or ribbon here at the bottom. One thing here in this Navigate tab that is very handy is the Favorites icon. So if you do have a certain page or pages that you access frequently, you can click on this and add it to favorites, so you don't have to go hunt for it each and every time you want to update a web page. So that comes in real handy for those pages you know you're going to be updating a lot. And also we have the Review tab. We'll get into that more later, as well as the Publish. There's a few tabs here that you probably won't have access to. Then also there's the My Toolbar. The My Toolbar is very handy if you are using a lot of tools frequently. You can customize this toolbar to include any of the other tools from any of these tabs. So you can basically make your own palette of tools right here in My Toolbar. So always keep that in mind if you want to streamline your workflow. But right now, let me go ahead and go down to the left-hand side of the Sitecore page, and this is what we call the content tree. Right now there's not much to it. There's home, there's this web forms folder, and then a global folder. We're going to focus on home here, and yes, this is the SMU homepage. No, most people do not have access to it, including myself. I cannot edit this item. But if you click on the arrow to the left of home, it will expand to give you all of the different web pages within the SMU website. As you can see, there's different departments, different schools, different areas that have their pages here with different icons. And like for my area, I have OIT right here with a little computer icon. And for today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working in a Sitecore training sandbox that we have, so we can play around and make sites without making them totally public. And so I'm going to click on this Sitecore training listing here, right here, click on that arrow, and there's a little test page there. But right now what I'm going to do for this video is I'm going to make a brand new page totally from scratch. I know I told you that this class really isn't for creating pages from scratch, but to show you the basics of working with content and things like that, it's pretty easy for me to create a blank page and show you where everything's supposed to go. So let me go ahead and I'm going to right click on Sitecore Training, and a menu will come up here with an insert option. So I'm going to click on that, and now I'm given two options. One is a standard page with a sidebar menu, which is the majority of pages that exist on the SMU website. There's also, if you want, a standard page without a sidebar menu. So the sidebar menu is what you see on the right hand side of a website with links to all of the other links for child pages within that page itself. So I'll show you that here in a bit. So let me go ahead and I'm going to create a standard page. It's going to ask me what I want it to be, so I'm going to do Sitecore Basics. We usually don't like to put spaces in our page titles, but if you do want to have a little space between words, what we are doing is putting a hyphen in between the words like that. So whichever way you want to do it, just don't put spaces in titles. It will work, but it's not recommended for Sitecore. So let me go ahead and click OK. And there we go. I now have a very basic web page, and it's all blank, ready for me to start working in. And I can just scroll through here, and there's a bunch of different options here. We're not going to go through an exhaustive list of all of them, so I'll just show you the ones that you're going to be using a lot. So let's go ahead and take a look. Alright, so let me go ahead and zoom in here to show you in more detail this portion of the content editor. So first is the quick info section. Gives you just a little bit of basic info about the page itself, but where we're going to be working the most is going to be the main page content section. And right now it just automatically fills in the page title with what you named a brand new page, but I always recommend to name it something a little more descriptive than that. So I'm just going to type something in real quick here. Okay, and then the field above it is the browser title for search engine listings. Now, This, you can make this a little bit different if you wanted the browser title, which is the title that will appear in the tab in a browser, or in the search engine listings for Google, Yahoo, whatever it might be. You can either just put the same thing in or leave it blank, it'll default, or if you want to put a little more descriptive information for the search engine or whatever it may be, you can do that as well. So I'll just put something in there so we have a little bit of content. And then also we have the main page content, which I'll come back to in just a bit because that's where we're going to be putting all of our content that will show in the center of the page. But we do have this field here, which is somewhat recent of a development. This is internal notes. So this comes in handy if you are working on a page with multiple people and just want to have notes for whoever else may be working in this page about what's going on or what's been updated recently. Also, below the main page content section, if I scroll down, there is a navigation and display options section. This is where you go if you want to have this page redirect to another web page, either on the SMU website or outside of SMU. This is very similar to how it has been in the past with older templates, but it's just within a more concise navigation options tab. Also, you do have alternate titles for the top navigation bar, which is the menus at the very top of web pages at SMU, and then also for the breadcrumbs and the right sidebar. It's this is what can be overridden, or what will override rather, the right sidebar text for this page that I mentioned earlier, as well as the breadcrumbs at the top of the page. And I'll show you, once I'll fill in some of this, I'll show you how some of that looks. Another thing you'll be using from time to time is the banner image section. This will be where you can put a banner image like you have probably done in the past if you've used Sitecore before, to have a nice image at the very top of your page before your actual content. And there's also another option here below that for a mobile banner, which will be smaller, that can fit on mobile web browsers on a smartphone or tablet. So just keep that in mind. And then there's a few other sections here that are for more advanced use that we won't be going over in too much detail today. But I'm going to go back up here to main page content, and you'll notice I was able to type in these fields just fine, the title fields, but if I click in the main page content, it's not letting me just go ahead and type. What gives? Well, if you'll notice when my cursor stays still, it will say double click here to edit the text. You can either double click like it says, or you can click on the show editor link. And when you do that, it will come up with the rich text editor, and this is where we're going to be working with all of our content today. So let's go ahead and start putting things in our web page. So to get our basic text into our web page, right now I just have a Word document that's open in Word on my computer. So let me go ahead and I'll get that. So right now I just have some really basic information about SMU here that I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste. So I'm just going to copy it straight from Word, and what I like to do in the actual rich text editor in Sitecore is that when I'm ready to paste, I don't just do Control-V or right-click and paste, anything like that. I like to go up here into the toolbar of the rich text editor and select the Paste Plain Text. And when I click on that, it'll ask me to then paste whatever I want to paste. So I'll go ahead and do that. And then click Paste. And so now you'll notice while in Word it was formatted in a different way to where, I had a bit of a title that was bold and some space between the paragraphs. It stripped all of that out. That's okay, because I can format all of this within the rich text editor, since that's what it's for. So first off, the About SMU, I want that to stand out a little bit. So I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to click on this drop down box here that says Normal. And now I have a few different options in terms of headings. So if you are familiar at all with HTML or any other kind of web design practices that you may have used in the past, headings are ranked from heading 1 to heading 6, heading 1 being the largest, heading 6 being the smallest. And heading 1 is not available to you in this list because normally that belongs to the actual page title in Sitecore. It's basically reserved for that. So right now I just kind of want this to stand out a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and put it as heading 3. Okay, there we go. And you'll notice it does look larger. and it is in Times New Roman, just a basic font. It will look different whenever you publish your page. It will accept or adopt any design principles that are in the template already that Public Affairs has put together, so no need to worry about that. And before in my Word document, I did have some spaces between the paragraphs, and I'd like that again, so I'm just going to return on those. And there we go, we're all set. So it is formatted very similar to how I had it in Word, and it didn't take me very much time at all. So now that we have our text in our page, it's almost done. But again, a web page with just text is not very exciting. So let's go ahead and put some links in, and then we'll work with some images and such as well. So first, I'm just going to do an internal link. There are two different kinds of links in Sitecore. An internal or Sitecore link, which means it links to anywhere else within the SMU website, and then an external link, which is anywhere else on the internet. Why is the difference there? For internal links, what happens is that every page on the SMU website in Sitecore gets a unique identifier. So for example, if you linked on your website to a web page on another department's page, or linked to another department's web page, and they for some reason move the location of that page, you don't have to worry about changing your link, and it will automatically update it so it's not broken if for whatever reason another area that you're linking to moves their content into a different area. So that is a big advantage of internal links. So make sure to do that if you're wanting to link to a page within the SMU website. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create one of those. So I'm just going to highlight SMU here. And once I do that, I'm just going to make a link to the SMU homepage. And to do that, up here in our toolbar, right next to the italics button here, there is an Insert Sitecore Link button. And it's got the little globe with a plus sign and that chain link. Let me click on that. And now it's going to bring back the content tree that I showed you earlier. And right now you can go through here and link to any other page on the SMU website, but for right now, for the sake of time, I'm just going to link to the home page. So I'm going to click Home and then Insert. And that's it. We're all done. If you ever wanted to edit that link for any reason, you can right-click on it. And so you do have properties to edit. You also have a remove option, so if you just want to get rid of it entirely. Let's go to Properties really quick. And then I'll show you here, there's that unique identifier for this page. You won't need to remember that or anything, but just to let you know that it's there. And then you can change the target of the link. So if you wanted this link to open in an entirely new window or tab, you can do that, and I always actually like to do that, especially if I'm linking to a website outside of the SMU website, because if you don't open it in a new window, they may forget that they were at your website first and never come back. I always want people to come back to my webpage, so I always have it open up in another tab so then they can always come back to where they were on our website. So you can always change that to a new window right here. And there's a few other options here, but I'm going to get to those in just a second. And now let's go ahead and create an external link. So I'm just going to highlight some random text here just so we have something. There we go. And now for an external link, there's a different button, and that is right over here further to the right by that paste button we used earlier. This is the Hyperlink Manager button, so I'm going to click that, and you'll notice it looks just like when we were looking at the properties for that other link we made. And here in the URL, though, it is blank, so I'm just going to go ahead and put in just any old website. I'll just do Wikipedia. There we go. And for the target, again, I'm going to do new window. Anchors, that is for if you have a very long web page and you would like it to, if you would like a particular link to scroll down to a certain part of that page. So that's what that's for, and you can set those. That's another task for another day, though. The tooltip here is just something that you can put as descriptive text that will then show whenever you hover a cursor over that link. So let me click OK and show you. So now that link's done, and I'm going to hover over, and see, there you are. There's that tooltip. So that's what that tooltip will do. Now, on top of just regular links, we can also make buttons. Long before, in older versions of Sitecore, adding a button or creating a button was a little tedious. You had to go find the right code to copy and paste into your page and figure all of that out. You don't have to do that anymore. It's actually pretty awesome. Let me go ahead and I'm just going to put some text here. There we go. And I'm going to highlight that. And I'm going to just do an internal link again, just to somewhere else. Alright, and now I'm going to go back to the properties where we were earlier on those other links. And we can change features just like we did before, new window, things like that. But take a look at this field at the bottom, this drop-down menu for CSS class. If I click on that, I'm given some options. And we have put in for you the option to have a silver button, red button, or blue button, both regular and large size. I'm going to make this one a blue button and make it a larger button. So I'm going to click on that, click OK, and that's it. I made a button. Yes, it doesn't look like a button right now, but once we preview this page, it'll show up as a button. So let's go ahead and do that. Right now I'm going to go ahead and click Accept. That's going to take everything I've done here and put it into the page just like that, as you can see in the main page content field. And now once I've done that, just to be safe, I'm going to go to the top left and click on Save right here. It'll take just a sec. There we go. And now to preview to see what this page will look like, I'm going to actually go to the Publish tab, and there's a button called Preview. So once I click Preview, it's going to open a new tab and show me what my page will look like. There we go. So now we have our text, we have our links, and if I hover over that one link, there's that tooltip. Very cool. And there's our button down there at the bottom. Perfect. So now let's go ahead. We know that the page is working correctly. That's fantastic. Let me close out this tab. It'll take me back to the content editor. And next, since we do have just some text and links, it's still a pretty boring page. So let's go ahead, go back in to the content editor, and let's tackle images. So to upload a brand new photo, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put my cursor up at the very beginning of this first paragraph, just so that's where it will go. And I'm going to click on the Insert Sitecore Media button, which is right next to that Sitecore link button we used earlier. It's the one with the picture with the plus sign next to it, so I'm going to click there. And now it brings me to the Media Library content tree. So it looks a lot like the content tree for the web pages, but if you go within this Site folder, that's where most of the folders for SMU web pages live. So I'm going to scroll, and eventually I'll go to my Sitecore training folder. There we go. And of course I do have a few images of Dr. Turner here that I'm going to be putting onto the page, but if you wanted to upload a new one, you would click whenever you're in the folder you want to upload to. Down here at the bottom left, click Upload, and then it will ask you to choose the files you want to upload. And here on my desktop I do have another photo, but since I already have a few copies of it, I'm not going to upload it again. But you would select your photo and then click Open, and then you would click the Upload button here, and then that would upload it. But I'm going to X out of that right now. I'm just going to use the one that's already here. And when you click on a photo here in the media library, it will have the width and height. You can change that here, but I would not, because there's an easier way to do it. I'll show you that in a bit. But also the alternate text field is what I really wanted to bring to your attention. If I click on here, you will see that I can provide some descriptive text about this photo. Not only does this show up when the photo, for whatever reason, doesn't load on someone's computer, it is also read to people that may be using assistive technologies like screen readers, braille readers, things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and click on alternate text and start typing in. Actually, I already have one from one of my previous classes, and this is perfect. SMU President Dr. R. Gerald Turner in front of Dallas Hall. Just a basic descriptive bit of text about this photo. And now I can go ahead and click Insert. And now I have the actual photo on my page, but it is not in a very good spot, is it? It's right up there, right next to the first paragraph. It's over on the left-hand side. It's in line with the text. That's really weird. So how do I fix that? It's pretty easy. So right now I'm just going to right-click on the image, and click on Properties, just like we did on those links. And now we have different options for how we want this photo to look. First off, I want to make it a little bit smaller, so I'm going to change the width here. And you'll notice as I type 200 pixels instead of 400, it will automatically change the height as well. See? There we go. And the reason for that is that chain link here in the middle. That means whatever you do on the width or height, it will change the other field to keep everything in the right aspect ratio, so you're not stretching out a picture. You can always turn that off by clicking on that chain link, but just use that sparingly because you don't really want to be stretching out photos, especially of people, things like that, right? So now let's go ahead and look at some of the other options here. Border color and width, you're not going to see that used a whole lot. Image alignment, you can change what side of the page the image aligns with from here, but I'm going to show you something a little better than that. That does take care of a lot of the other work for you. If I go down to the CSS class like we did when we were making our button, let's click on this drop down, and we have two options, image left and image right. Image left will align the image to the left, and will also give a little bit of padding on the right hand side of the photo, so there's a little bit of space between the photo and the actual text. And the right does the same thing, just on the right hand side. So let me click on that one and then click OK, and just like that I've adjusted the size, and now it is right aligned with a little bit of breathing room between the text and the image, so just the way I like it. So there we go. We now have our text, our links, our images, and the image is the way we want it, so I'm going to click accept, and now it's put into that main page content, and now I'm going to save. Once I've saved, I'm going to go back to my publish tab and click on preview just to make sure it's the way I like it. And there we go, perfect. Now in the preview features, sometimes the top nav with the SMU logo and such doesn't show up, but that is being worked on for sure. And but this again is just a really quick preview, so it's a quick look at how your website will actually look. So there's my title that I put together. There's the side nav with the child pages of the parent page that we made this page under, the Sitecore training page. And there's our button. Looks great. It routes me to that other internal page. Perfect. And there we are. We've made a web page from scratch. Now that we've done this, you can come back in or go into any other existing page and know exactly where to go in order to start editing your pages. So that is the majority of how to work within a page for basic content editing purposes. So let me go ahead and close out this preview, and let's talk about what happens when you're actually ready to publish your page to the web for the public to see. You would assume that you would go to this Publish tab and click on Publish, right? Well, that's not right. So there is a different kind of workflow that we have in place behind the scenes in Sitecore that gets pages published, and in order to put our page through that workflow, let's go over to the Review tab. And once we go to the Review tab, in the Workflow section here, we have two buttons here. We have Stage and we have Direct Approve, and actually a third button, Check In, and I'll tell you what each of these do. First off is Check In. If you don't necessarily want the page to be available to the public quite yet, maybe you want to check it back in so someone else in your office can work on it, you would click this Check In button and it would just put the page back into the Sitecore to where other people can check it out and edit it. The next button here is the Stage button. This is where, let's say you want to have the rest of your team or your supervisor, whoever it may be, want to look at the page as it will appear when published, but you don't necessarily want to have it available to the public just yet. It may be the person you want to show it to doesn't have access to Sitecore to edit pages or look at them or preview them. So if you click on Stage, what will happen is that it will place the page on a stage server that we have available, and that is the wcmstage.smu.edu server that you see right here. So let's say, for example, myself, I'm working on the OIT homepage. which is normally located at smu.edu/OIT. If I were to make a change and want to show my director, hey, I've made this change to the website, what do you think? I can stage it and then send a link to that page. For example, again, with smu.edu/OIT, I would tell them to go to wcmstage.smu.edu/OIT, and that will then show them the page. It's not available to the public, but it is available to anyone using a computer that is on campus, on the campus network, or connected to VPN. So then they will be able to see the page as it will look when it's published to the web. When you're ready to publish to the web, you will click this Direct Approve button, and that will save the page. It will then put the page through the workflow in Sitecore, and then your page will be published within a few seconds. So the whole world can then see your site. So there you go. And that is the Direct Approve. So just remember that this used to be called a Submit button. It used to just say Submit, but now it says Direct Approve. So if you go to a page that you've worked with a lot before and all of a sudden it says Direct Approve instead of Submit, it's the same thing. Okay, so that's about it when it comes to editing basics in Sitecore. I hope this has been helpful and informational for you. If you do need any more assistance or anything like that, feel free to go to smu.edu/Sitecore, where I also am right now, and you'll want to click on the Documentation and Training tab here, where we do have links to using Sitecore, which is a very good place on our wiki system that has all of the printed documentation for our Sitecore instance, as well as some advanced topics on also how to use department-specific aspects of web pages, as well as widgets, forms, things like that, and also links to our video tutorials and other information. And there's also some links to information from Sitecore themselves about certain Sitecore features. And as always, feel free to let the help desk know if you have any questions. They're available at 214-768-HELP or help@smu.edu. They have access to Sitecore as well. So if you need a little help getting walked through basic issues that you may run into whenever you're working in your web pages, they are more than happy to help. So feel free to take advantage of that. Thanks again for watching. Enjoy making your web pages.